I declare bankruptcy!
The big fast food franchises are loved everywhere, right? Well, not so fast. Here are 10 times fast food restaurants failed internationally. Taco Bell in Mexico.
What did you say?
Yeah, you heard that right. In the literal land of Mexican food, America's largest and most popular Mexican fast food chain has failed to penetrate the market. Not once, but twice.
Twice? 2 times.
There are over 6,000 Taco Bell locations around the world, but the company has never been able to grab a foothold in Mexico. Founded in California in the 1960s, Taco Bell had expanded to nearly 4,000 restaurants by the early 90s, and it was at that point that the company made the seemingly no-brainer decision to sell Mexican food to Mexican people. Their first south-of-the-border location opened up in Mexico City in 1992, operating as a taco stand/food cart. The concept was an immediate and spectacular failure. Their attempt to compete with authentic Mexican fare was disastrous, with one cultural critic from the Associated Press noting that bringing tacos to Mexico was akin to bringing ice to the Arctic. They already have plenty of it, and it's the real deal. Customers were puzzled by the concept of a crunchy, hard-shell taco, seeing as those do not and haven't ever existed in Mexico. The stereotypical names of the menu items also puzzled customers, with hard tacos having to be renamed as tacostadas so that customers had a better concept of what they were about to sink their teeth into. Lost in translation from the start, the experiment ended as a dismal failure after only 2 years. Stubborn for success, however, the Taco Bell Chihuahua licked its wounds and came back for another round in 2007. Tweaking its strategy, the chain decided to pivot away from being a direct competitor to authentic Mexican eats and marketed itself as unabashedly American. French fries and ice cream dominated their advertising strategy in an attempt to separate itself from Taco Bell's traditional reputation. A brick-and-mortar location opened up in the city of Monterey, and the chain planned expansion in the following year. But again, the locals couldn't get into it. This attempt went as bad as the first try, and Taco Bell retreated to the United States in less than a year. Domino's in Italy.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Italian food in Italy? What could possibly go wrong? Well, when it's Italian-American food, it might not fly in the land of the original pizza pie. Domino's first descended on the city of Milan in 2015, with their CEO firmly believing the key to success was their tried-and-true delivery method, noting that in Italy there's a lot of pizza, but there's not a lot of delivered pizza. Typically, Italians dine in with their hot and fresh pizza at a physical restaurant, and Domino's figured the convenience of having it brought to your door would win customers over. They were so confident in the strategy that the chain publicly announced plans to open up almost 900 Domino's locations across the nation over the next decade and a half. To capitalize on Italian tastes, the chain catered to more traditional pizza styles that the locals were accustomed to, as well as pushing Americanized pies like the Hawaiian, barbecue chicken, and cheeseburger pizza. They even sourced all their ingredients within the country to appeal to the local palate. But whatever the reason, it never took off.
Not good enough.
Soon enough, other restaurants got into the delivery game to cut into that cornerstone of Domino's strategy. In today's new normal, doorbells ringing with delivery is the standard instead of the exception, and the pizza giant was pushed out of the market in favor of those traditional Italian pies. In the summer of 2022, Domino's said arrivederci to all 29 locations across Italy and closed their doors for good. Anything except McDonald's in Italy.
Well, what do you want, Michael?
I make DLT.
No, I already told you they don't make those anymore.
Realistically, it isn't just Domino's that struggled to get on the map in the beautiful country. The nation's demand for rustic and traditional eateries has had most of the population snubbing fast food expansion into the marketplace. Far and away, the only true success in the fast food restaurant game has been the world-famous Golden Arches of McDonald's.
We love McDonald's.
And even then, they aren't as big in Italy as they are in other countries. With an estimated 600 locations in Italy, they only have a third of the number of McDonald's in neighboring countries with comparable population density and size, like France, for example, which has over 1,500 franchises. Compared to the 1,200 McDonald's locations in the United Kingdom, Italy's mere 600 locations are barely noticeable. And with Domino's being chased back to North America, the location numbers are staggeringly low for otherwise popular fast food franchises. Dunkin' Donuts had already retreated to America in 2003 away after discovering they were no match for authentic Italian espresso. There are only 17 Subway sandwich shops in the entire country, struggling to compete in the home of the panini press. Even Colonel Sanders himself can't get Italians to swap the pasta for the bucket, as KFC's famous herbs and spices have only slightly better performance with 50 stores. Whatever the reasoning, unless they're packing Bellissimo Big Macs, it seems that most fast food chains are better served to avoid the rustic scenes of Tuscany altogether. McDonald's in Iceland.
I'll have the Big Mac, please.
Great joy.
While it's basically the measuring stick for fast food success, that doesn't mean McDonald's has worked out everywhere. Mickey D's first set up shop in Iceland in 1993, opening 3 locations in Iceland's capital city. The idea was initially quite popular, with Iceland's prime minister even doing a quarter-pounder photo op at one of the new restaurants. Iceland had been known as an isolated nation that kept to itself and stayed in the background on the global stage. So the introduction of a foreign food chain had the entire country intrigued. But after the initial novelty wore off and other American competitors like Burger King entered the Icelandic market, McDonald's got lost in the shuffle of new and exciting fast food outlets. The chain held on until 2008 when a global recession crippled the Icelandic economy. The value of their currency sank, and suddenly the cost to import McDonald's 100% pure beef patties from overseas became unsustainable.
Sorry, you guys, but I can't pay that. It's too much money.
The company raised prices to retain its profit margins, but the higher cost to struggling citizens simply drove customers away. By 2009, McDonald's shut down all of its remaining locations in Iceland. The fond fast food memories remain, with the last cheeseburger and fries ever sold in the country being encased in a hotel lobby's glass public display to this very day. Everybody knows McDonald's leftovers hit a bit different, but hanging on to them for that long is pushing it. McDonald's in Vietnam.
I want a cheeseburger.
This is a special soup called pho.
Mickey D's tried its luck in another new market back in 2014, deciding to expand into Vietnam for the first time and capitalize on the 97 million potential customers that live there. The first McDonald's opened in the city of Ho Chi Minh and was a major success.
Oh, I'm rich. I'm rich.
Reports estimated over 400,000 customers visited in the first month of business alone, often waiting in long lines just to get their first taste of the famous burgers and fries that they had seen on TV and in movies. But the initial honeymoon period was short-lived, and the chain ran into trouble. One major issue for the fast food giant was borderline unbelievable. Their fast food wasn't fast enough. Vietnamese culture is always designed to be on the go, so the concept of food that could be prepared by street vendors at lightning speeds had been around for decades and had already been perfected. The local options also tended to be healthier and more flavorful, using fresh local products and time-tested recipes. While McDonald's still has a lingering 22 Vietnamese locations today, they've never been able to expand beyond those numbers or recapture the huge sales of those first few months. They haven't pulled the plug yet, but Ronald McDonald's grip is slipping. Dunkin' Donuts in India.
Eat the donut.
America runs on Dunkin'. That slogan might be more on the money than Dunkin' had hoped. With the company's previous 2003 exit from Italy after 4 dismal years, the donut giant from Massachusetts would aim to roll out their brand of breakfast fare in a different part of the world.
Fingers crossed.
In 2012, they decided on India, their rationale being that more people from India are traveling, and they'd have developed a taste for franchises found in other parts of the world. Dunkin' Donuts opened 10 restaurants through a mix of food courts, mall kiosks, and a few flagship brick-and-mortar locations in their first year of business in India. The expansion hit several snags almost immediately, starting with the fact that nobody was showing up. The Indian population tends to dine out every 45 days, as opposed to the United States, where it's every 48 hours. And when Indian customers did show up, they found the prices too high. And when they decided to spend the money anyway, they didn't like what they got. 6 years after rolling out their Joe on the Go in India, Dunkin' Donuts cut its losses and cut half of all their Indian locations in 2018. Chik-Fil-A in South Africa.
Got any fried chicken?
Best damn chicken in the state.
Once upon a time, the southern USA's favorite chicken chain decided to expand their market further south, way south, as in the country of South Africa. Their robust 1990s expansion plan had long-term goals to develop a total of 50 stores, and in August of 1996, Chik-Fil-A opened its first ever location outside of North America with a restaurant in the city of Durban, South Africa. Just over a year later, they opened a second location in the city of Johannesburg, and that's where they ran into trouble. 10 years prior, the famous South African chicken chain Nando's had opened its first spot in the same city of Johannesburg and was already the king of poultry in the region. Not only did Chik-Fil-A fail to grab customers, but they probably wish Google Maps existed in 1996. Chik-Fil-A's founder was on record as saying they didn't know how far South Africa really was, at least in a logistical sense. He said that it was so awkward trying to get merchandise there, as well as employees. It was too far, too fast.
It's too much! It's too much!
The company didn't reach those lofty heights of 50 restaurants and never expanded beyond the original 2. Chik-Fil-A clucked back to Georgia when they permanently shuttered South African operations in 2001. It may have been a long way to go logistically, but it's a lot longer to get back home doing the walk of shame. Baskin Robbins in South Africa.
It's an ice cream cone.
Another famous fast food treat tried its hand at playing the long-distance game in South Africa when Baskin-Robbins brought their 31 flavors to the African continent at the end of 2016. Projected to open 70 locations throughout Johannesburg and Cape Town, the company figured cool ice cream would be a big seller in the heat of the Southern Hemisphere. And it was. Sort of. There were sales, but locals were perplexed by the 31 flavor system when most food in their culture is simple and straightforward. And after they finally decided what they would like, they found the price wasn't as cool as the ice cream. It turns out having to ship and chill ice cream all the way to Africa wasn't cheap, and the Baskin-Robbins stores had to jack up their prices to compensate for the costs. The low sales continued to drop, and coupled with a local economic recession in 2018, the company claimed a loss of over $18 million in that year alone. After only 3 years, Baskin-Robbins made their slow and steady exit with profit margins melting faster than a scoop of Rocky Road. Subway in Japan.
Japan? What's happening in Japan? Why is she going to Japan?
The slogan of "Eat Fresh" figured to be a surefire success in Japan, where they serve fish so fresh they eat it raw.
Yeah, that's what you wish, Steve.
But when Subway brought their cold-cut combos to the land of the rising sun, it was the total opposite of successful. This was despite an aggressive strategy, with 20 locations opened across Tokyo and pushing to outnumber McDonald's locations when they peaked at 200 locations across Japan. However, the Subway sandwich idea just never caught on. Sandwiches aren't a traditional Japanese food, and they never have been. And when customers did show up, they found locations to be run down and unwelcoming. Subway's Japanese division officially filed for bankruptcy in 2019, having shuttered most of those 200 locations in the years prior. Wendy's in Europe.
I'm hungry. Those things look good. Bet your ass they do, Morty. That's the breakfast baconator, frosty chino, and honey butter chicken biscuit.
While Dave Thomas brought his famous square burger patties to Europe back in the 1980s, he didn't stick around long when the customers in Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg weren't as fired up about old-fashioned hamburgers as they were back home. After Wendy's cleared out, a local fish and chips restaurateur trademarked the name Wendy's for his tiny shop and was awarded the trademark in 1995. The trademark now extends throughout the entire European Union and prevents the American chain Wendy's from using their name should they try to get back into the European market.
No! God!
The Baconator Bunch has been fighting the trademark in court since the year 2000, but the Wendy's name on the European continent remains connected to fish and chips instead of Frosties.
Better luck next time.